Okay, so you know that look, right?
Yeah.
That perfect, luminous, soft transition highlight.
Oh, yeah. The kind that just melts.
Exactly. It's like the best of balayage and ombre, but just seamless, looks so natural, almost glowing. It really is like the peak of the craft.
It looks effortless, definitely.
But it isn't, is it? I mean, for anyone who hasn't done it, it might seem like just, pure art. But the research we looked at, it shows something else.
It's very precise, calculated, really.
Right. It's this mix of, well, geometry, chemistry, and some very specific ways of using the brush. We're basically trying to take the guesswork out of getting that perfect lift.
Mm-hmm. Taking the art and showing the science behind it.
So our mission for this deep dive, break down the actual steps, the technical guide for getting this blend on natural hair. We want to pull out those specialized techniques.
The non-negotiables?
Yeah, the rules you have to follow to avoid the disasters. The streaks, the splotches, that awful hard line. We're aiming for scientific precision for you listening.
And that precision, it really is everything. If you're going for this look, you have to realize that getting that smooth transition means controlling, well, pretty much every variable.
Like the angle of the section.
The angle, the thickness, even how thick or thin your lightener mix is. If you kind of fudge any part of the formula.
The whole thing can fall apart.
Pretty much. The structure relies on hitting each step correctly.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we even think about mixing up lightener, there's prep involved. What's the absolute first thing, the non-negotiable step the sources kept mentioning for consistency?
It sounds almost too simple, maybe, but it gets overlooked. The hair has to be blow-dried straight before you start applying anything.
Okay, not just for neatness.
No, it's more than that. It's about getting a perfectly clean, smooth canvas. Every strand needs to lie flat and consistent.
Ah, so if there's wave or a curl.
You risk getting uneven saturation later on. The product might not hit every part of the hair shaft the same way. So, smooth canvas, smooth result. It sets the stage.
Got it. Makes sense. So canvas trepped, perfectly straight. Now sectioning, we start at the nape, right? Back of the neck.
Yep, that's the starting point.
And the first section is horizontal. Seems standard enough, like building a foundation.
Right.
But then immediately after that first foil, the geometry just shifts. Like, completely. The instructions say create a diagonal section right around the left ear. Why? Why jump from horizontal to diagonal so fast?
Okay, this right here. This is probably the core geometric rule. It's what makes the difference between just some highlights and that really melted, blended look.
And the sources were pretty strong about not just sticking with horizontal, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely explicit. Like a major warning. Don't rely only on horizontal sections.
Why not? What's the visual problem? If you stack horizontal foils, it feels like building coverage, but you're saying...
You're building a line. Think about it like stacking bricks.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. A visible edge.
Exactly. You stack horizontally, you risk creating those streaks, that really unnatural hard line where the color starts and stops. It's just too defined.
But diagonal, it breaks that up.
It completely diffuses it. When you slice diagonally, the color gets placed at slightly different points all the way down the hair strand, following the head shake naturally. It doesn't stack neatly.
It sort of scatters the starting point.
Precisely. It shatters that line, letting the lightener melt into the hair around it. That's how you get the soft transition.
Okay, so using angles to basically trick the eye. Clever. But isn't that way slower? Taking diagonal sections versus just straightforward horizontal slices. Does this mean it's only practical for like really high-end clients where time isn't the biggest factor?
Well, that's the trade-off, isn't it? You're trading speed for that seamless quality.
So speed with horizontal means risking the blend.
Right. You might finish faster, but you might end up with a look that needs a lot more blending or toning afterwards to fix the lines. With the diagonal approach, you put the precision in up front.
Front-loading the work to minimize fixing it later.
Exactly. The payoff is in the final, natural-looking blend.
Okay, I'm sold on diagonal. And then there's back combing introduced pretty early, too, around the ear, and then it says apply it heavier near the front, the face frame. That's another geometric tool, right? Also about diffusion, softening the start.
Absolutely. Backcombing pushes some hair up towards the root, out of the way of the initial Lightener application, so the lift starts a bit softer further down from the scalp. It's another way to blur that starting point.
So you've got diagonal and backcombing working together for softness.
Correct. But whether you're doing fine diagonal slices or backcombing, the really critical thing here, the main takeaway for anyone trying this, is the thickness of your sections.
Oh, consistency again.
It has to be absolutely uniform. Every section, the same thickness. If it's too thick,
The lightener won't get all the way through.
right, won't penetrate evenly. Too thin,
You could overprocess it, or maybe it looks weak.
exactly. You risk overprocessing, potential damage, and you lose the depth you need for that dimensional look. Finding that sweet spot in thickness and sticking to it is key.
Okay, angles mastered, thickness consistent.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears to the chemistry. We've got the perfect angle. What are we actually putting on the hair? What's in the bowl? The specifics of the lightener mix.
Right, the chemistry. And just like the geometry, it starts with control. That's why the source material insists on starting with a 20 volume developer.
20, okay. Especially for natural hair, I mentioned, even if it's quite dark.
Yes, it's a deliberate choice because it's natural, often virgin hair. You're not trying to blast it open quickly.
But isn't the temptation there to just use 30 or 40 volume to speed things up? Especially on dark or, maybe resistant hair? What's the actual danger of going too fast on natural hair?
It's sort of a double risk. First, damage. Higher volume means a faster chemical reaction, more heat. That can stress the hair's integrity.
Makes sense.
But second, and this is crucial for the final color, it's about controlling the lift. A faster lift with higher volume pushes through the underlying pigments really quickly.
Meaning brassiness, orange and yellow tones.
Exactly. You expose those warm underlying tones much faster and more intensely. Starting lower with 20 volume gives you time. Time to watch the lift, control it, and make sure you get a cleaner lift, minimizing that unwanted warmth right from the start.
So the 20 volume is like a built-in safety measure against ending up with brassy highlights.
You did think of it that way, yeah. Safety and control over the tone.
Okay, 20 volume it is. Now the mix itself, the ratio, how much lightener to developer? This needs to be precise too, I'm guessing.
Absolutely precise. It's a straight 1-to-1 ratio. The source specified 30 grams of lightener to 30 grams of developer.
1-to-1. Easy to remember.
Yes, but the reason why that ratio is important isn't just about the amounts. It's about the consistency it creates, the viscosity of the paste.
Viscosity. Okay, tell us more about that. How does the actual thickness or texture of the lightener paste make such a difference?
It needs to be the right texture, optimal. If the mix is too thin, which can happen if you eyeball it and add too much developer, two bad things happen. One, it's runny. It won't stay exactly where you paint it on the hair, so you get patchy saturation.
Uneven lift right there.
Right. And second, this is critical when you're using foils like we discussed. A thin mixture will swell and bleed out from under the foil, especially once body heat or any external heat hits it.
And bleeding means splotches near the root, lines where you didn't want them.
Exactly. The very things we're using the diagonal sections to avoid, bleeding ruins the clean application.
So that 1.1 ratio isn't random. It's specifically engineered to create a paste that's dense enough, thick enough, to stick precisely where you put it.
Yes. It adheres properly. It prevents it from creeping up the hair shaft under the foil or onto hair you wanted to leave natural.
It's about containment, controlling where that lift happens.
Precisely. Controlled lift containment. That 1.1 ratio is fundamental for that.
Okay, sectioning is diagonal, mix is 1.1 with 20 volume. Now we actually apply it. The brushwork. This seemed really interesting in the notes because the technique has to get deep penetration, but without making more lines.
Yeah.
Which leads to this dual application method.
Yes, this is a really key part of the technique. It's the difference between just sort of coating the surface of the hair versus truly saturating the hair fiber all the way through.
Which you need for an even lift, obviously.
It's absolutely essential for a uniform lift.
So dual application. That means using two different brush strokes or approaches on the same section of hair. How does that actually work?
Okay, so first you might use a wider brush or just quick horizontal or slightly diagonal strokes. This is for the initial spray. Get the product onto the section quickly, cover the surface area.
Standard enough so far.
But then, and this is the mandatory part, you have to switch to vertical brush strokes. Really work the product in, up and down the hair strand.
Vertical. That seems, I don't know, less sufficient. If you're trying to cover a long piece of hair, wouldn't just spreading it side to side be faster? Is the vertical thing really necessary on every single foil? Seems like it would add a lot of time.
It might feel like overkill, especially when you have a whole head to do, but it's absolutely essential to avoid a really common mistake.
Which is?
Surface-only lifting. If you only use those horizontal or spreading strokes, you often just color the top layer of the hair in the section.
Oh, I think I've seen that. It looks okay from one angle, but then...
Exactly. I've seen trainees skip the vertical strokes, maybe trying to save time, and the result? The top surface of the face frame looks bright and beautiful, but then the client turns their head, the light hits it differently, and the hair underneath that top layer is still dark or patchy.
Like a halo of color just sitting on top.
Precisely. The vertical strokes physically push and work the product through the section, ensuring it surrounds and penetrates the hair strands from all sides, not just the top surface.
Ah, okay. So the first spread gets it on there, covers the ground, but the vertical push makes sure it sinks in deep, right down to the core of the hair bundle.
You got it. And the source material was really clear. You must use both. Horizontal or diagonal spread first, then vertical penetration. You can't skip the vertical part.
And if you do skip it,
You basically guarantee uneven lift. It'll look patchy or like subtle internal lines when it's all done and dried. And it's especially critical around the face frame where the hair is finer and the light catches it most. You need that root to tip saturation there.
got it, dual strokes, non-negotiable for saturation. Which brings us nicely to the final piece, Section 4. This is where the geometry and the application really come together, the seamless blending technique itself. How do we make absolutely sure we get that soft ombre melt, zero harsh lines, especially with foils? There was a very specific placement trick mentioned.
Right. This is where all the careful work with diagonal partings really pays off. If you think about the bigger picture, getting that seamlessness, it relies on a particular rhythm of placing the foils. It's about disrupting the expected pattern to create softness.
An interlocking rhythm, you called it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's about how the foils relate to each other.
So tell us about that rhythm, specifically the placement of the third foil. That seemed key.
Okay, so you've applied your first foil, let's call it foil A, on its diagonal section. Then you apply your second foil, foil B, on the next diagonal section.
Okay, A, then B, sequential.
But then for the third foil, foil C, you don't just place it next in line. You place it right in between the sections of foil A and foil B.
So you're not just stacking A, B, C in a row. You're going A, B, then C goes back to fill the space between A and B.
Exactly. You're deliberately using the negative space that your diagonal slicing created.
That's brilliant, because stacking them sequentially, even diagonally, could still create a subtle line or pattern. But by putting C between A and B,
you're breaking up any potential line immediately. They're visually connecting and blending the lift from section C with the lift from A and B on either side of it. It forces a melt.
it guarantees that softer blended ombre effect. It's like you're weaving the lightener through the hair rather than just placing it in rows.
It's an intentional disruption of sequence, yeah.
Yeah.
To create that dimensional harmony, the whole goal is to avoid any kind of parallel lines or obvious patterns.
Which is why, as the source reiterated, sticking to those diagonal partings consistently, especially around the face, is so important.
Right. They create the necessary space, that negative space around the foils, for the color to blend down the strand naturally without hitting a hard edge or creating bands of color.
Wow, okay. It really does all hinge on these like tiny sounding details. The exact angle, the precise 1.1 ratio, the vertical push with the brush, and then placing that third foil just so.
Small details, big impact on the final result.
Okay, let's quickly recap the absolute must-know takeaways for you listening. If you want that seamless blend, what are the pillars?
Well, we've basically established 3 foundational pillars, right? If you're aiming for that bright, luminous, natural look, these are the things that lock it in.
Okay, pillar 1, the geometry. Got to be diagonal. Avoid those horizontal sections like the plague, because they make streaks. You need the diagonal slice to shatter the line, melted transition.
Pillar 2, the chemistry. That 1.1 ratio is key. Starting with 20 volume for control, especially on natural hair, safe lifting, and sticking to that 1.1 mix exactly for the right viscosity. No bleeding, no splotches.
And pillar 3, application and placement. That dual brush stroke spread, then vertical push for deep, even saturation. And then the interlocking foil placement, putting that third foil between the first two. That's the mechanical key to the blend.
Right. The geometry sets up the potential for the blend, and the application technique makes it happen flawlessly.
The payoff of doing all that precise work is lift that, as you said, kind of heals itself, blends itself.
Yeah, it creates a self-blending effect. It's fascinating, isn't it? How often the best technical solution involves something counterintuitive, like deliberately slowing down with vertical strokes, or breaking the simple sequence of foil stacking.
Actions designed purely for consistency and diffusion.
Yeah,
That seems to be the professional difference marker.
definitely. It's that dedication to the precise details.
So, final thought then. If getting this seamless melt in hair color hinges completely on these specific diagonal angles and that intentional spacing, that interlocking placement, it makes you wonder, what other crafts rely on seemingly arbitrary measurements or placements? Things outside of hair color, maybe baking or architecture, building things, even textiles. Where else does success or failure hang on getting some small, precise measurement just right? What stands out to you listening as a surprising necessity for precision in any kind of skilled work?
That's a great question to ponder.
We'll leave that thought with you. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the geometry and chemistry of perfect highlights.